Well, welcome everybody to this new episode on No Wonder. It's going to be a congested one for me, but luckily for you, you're not going to have to listen to my voice too much because you have a wonderful guest here, Michael. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. And we're going to get to know you a little bit better. Uh, can you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Sure. Well, my name is Michael Clark, and I have a company called Personality Pitching, where we specialize in pitch coaching for entrepreneurs, startups, executives in the executive space that's helping executives really show up, be present when it comes to being in the boardroom meetings, whether it's a Zoom or an in person presentation. And so I work on not only what to say, but how to say it and the real difference, because there's a couple of other entities out there that do it, I really focus in on confidence. And the reason the company is called personality pitching is that I do it in such a way that your personality still shines.
So, we're going to get to discover two different worlds that are both similar and different, I would say, but let's not get ahead of our horses. As Michael, as the person that you are, what would you say it's one of the greatest achievements that you've had that feels that puts you in the position that you are today and where you can stand on? What's the ground you stand on?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest achievements is having raised over $100 million for my startups and entrepreneurs. Um, when you get to those type of numbers consistently with other people, it's an achievement because we have to work through a lot of ups and downs, different personalities, different setbacks. But my wins are based on my clients' wins. So I would say really that $100 million achievement.
That's wonderful. Congratulations, first of all. And in your words, what do you think is going to be the intent of the conversation of today?
I would say the intent would be that someone would walk away with some actionable skills and tips that they can use right away. I really pride myself on not just talking theory, but I work with clients that need help right away. So my hope today is they individuals after they listen, they've got one nugget that they can take into their next meeting or next deal and go to the next level.
I think it's going to be more than one, probably.
Exactly.
For sure. Um, I was starting to introduce a little bit the topics before because the work that you do, I think it's two-faced. You have one side that it's more on founders, startups, getting the capital when you want to start something, and the other one it's more on the philanthropy side. It's more on the venture side. Could you please just give us a little bit of a rundown of these two worlds really quickly, just so that we all know what we're talking about?
Sure, absolutely. So the two worlds, again, the startups and nonprofits. So these are going to be startups that are pre-seed, individuals that may be just at an ideation stage, or they have uh, minimum viable product. They have some type of prototype, and they're raising funds to build a functional, working system or app. And usually, they haven't raised the pre-seed, they haven't raised anywhere. Maybe they raised from 10,000 friends and family up to 100,000. And again, I work with individuals all the way up to Series A, so well into their first few millions. On the nonprofit side, these are going to be organizations that vary in budget. Usually, average budget they're around, I would say, anywhere from 100 to 500,000 per year, and these are organizations that serve the community, everything from after school programs, seniors, veterans, housing, food insecurities. They run the gamut. And my work with them is directly with the founder or executive director on donor acquisition, personal development, capacity building. The two worlds are the same in that you're kind of building something from nothing and building it from the ground up. But we can talk more about that.
No, for sure. So it's really I would say, kind of the two sides of one's journey. I would say either you go. Usually, I see people are more either on the entrepreneur side or on the nonprofit side. I'd say that the world sometimes is divided by these two definitions, and And that's very cool that you address both of them. It's more of a struggle, or it's more of an easy work, the one that you do, since they're both similar but also so different?
Yeah, well, I think the part that makes it different, I use to my advantage because many individuals in the nonprofit space are very much like startups, first time founders. They don't have MBAs, extensive business experience. So, what happens is I try to bring that startup business, building a culture, building a company mentality over to nonprofits because unfortunately, many nonprofits have this, well, if we're doing good, the money will come and we'll live off of love. And that doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't move the organization forward. So, to your point, when I first started working with nonprofits, I saw this gap where, again, they were approaching it in a way that they didn't think of a revenue model. They weren't thinking, how can we further the organization financially? So that's one of the, I would say, secret sauce in working with nonprofits is I bring a startup mindset over to a nonprofit. But yeah, it is a struggle because many times we have organizations that just feel like goodwill is enough and that the people will come, but they need a business structure.
No, for sure. Well, we are a couple of minutes into the conversation, and I'm sure that my audience is now already screaming into my ear, being like, "This is no wonder. Where are the women?"
Well, I don't mind jumping into that because, spoiler alert, about 90% of my clients are women. And women startup founders, women nonprofit leaders. And I always say that because people say, how is it you work with so many women? I just say, well, you know what? God has given me the opportunity to work with some amazing women and see the gaps and give them the confidence and strategy and framework to be amazing. They have their own set of challenges in both spaces. And we can talk about those. But again, yeah, I'm working with 90% women.
So, to set the stage, I usually like to start with a question, which is more on the broader side. So, on the topic of fundraising, whether it's a startup or a nonprofit, why do we need to talk about it now? Why personality pitching is growing now?
Yeah, I would say why now? I think what I'm noticing is there's a really huge increase of nonprofits. They're not on the decline. If anything, they're on the rise. I do a lot of work in California, for example, and there's 65,000 registered nonprofits in just LA County, and only about 5% of those ever make it to 500,000 or higher. So there's a lot of nonprofits that are in need of capacity building, leadership. And again, as the economy expands or decreases, and there's been so many changes in the US government in terms of how grants are provided. So we have a lot of nonprofits now that lost grant funding. And so they're looking for new funding strategies. And to that point, again, I was shocked to see how many nonprofits there are around the world and here in the US that are just opening daily. And the reason I say around the world is because I do get a number of nonprofits that are here in the US and then they serve uh, other countries.
No, for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's because I've lived in Geneva for some time, and as you
Mhm,
know, Geneva is the home of the UN. And I have some acquaintances who work in nonprofits.
mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there has been quite a strong shift coming from the US, which was almost 40% of all the fundings was coming from the US, and now it's no longer the case. So, does that reflect what you were saying right now?
Are you saying that the funding isn't coming? Yes, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yes, it has changed. It has definitely changed. And so now there's more of a reliance on individual donors, foundations. So you're exactly right.
So, given what is happening now, especially in philanthropy, but also in startups, uh, this has to change the way leaders show up in the world. Uh, so, if you were to figure out or to imagine, let's say, a world 10 years from now, 5 years from now, where everything that you teach is put into place, how would you say this? Mm, I don't want to say utopia, but you got the gist of what I'm saying. What is it? What would look like if everything went to according to plan? Let's say.
I think that I know we talked about the distinction between startups and nonprofits. I would say the utopia or roadmap would look like you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between the two, other than their financial designation, that they would show up strong, confident, be able to articulate who they are, what they do, who they serve, um, and really be confident in that. I'm even seeing a shift to where pitch competitions include nonprofits, and then I'm seeing uh, only nonprofit only pitch competitions, where for the longest time pitch competitions were only for startups and emerging companies. But I'm seeing it so much more now in with nonprofits.
And how do you think? Because we were talking about competitions, right? And the first thing that comes to mind in a competition is that there's winners and then sometimes there's losers. So in this great utopian world, what do the losers do?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. When you're in a pitch competition, this is the same thing with startups, and this is what we coach all of our clients, is that winning is being in the room. There is the prize at the end, the 250, 100,000 or a $50,000 check, but winning is being in the room, because when you get to pitch to a panel of judges, you now have them as connections and potential individuals you can reach out to. When you're in their room, the audience, there are going to be people in the audience that want to give to you. So I preach that there are no losers. If you are quote unquote like accepted into a competition, you can make that work and make that very profitable, whether it's money, relationship, or feedback.
Of course, getting to this utopic world, it's not a straightforward path. What's it's keeping people right now? What do you think is keeping people from reaching this vision?
Um, I would say a couple of things. And I think this one is a little bit surprising. I think part of it is AI. I think
Okay.
AI is kind of slowing things down. On the one hand, I think it is accelerating because it's filling the gaps where people may, again, we know we can lean on it to write, to edit, to co-create. I'll be nice and say co-create, but some of it is now you have so much information at your disposal, is that it creates almost analysis paralysis. So people almost become paralyzed by all this new information and resources. Uh, I would say the second thing that slows it down is no different than what slows down most entrepreneurs, the difference between observing something and execution. We There's so many clients I know that well, I've interviewed many people and they'll say, "Oh yeah," I'm saying, "Well, what did you do to further your startup?" "Well, I attended this workshop or I watched this video." That's not execution. So at the end of the day, I find that it's not about a great idea. It's not about being even being brilliant. It is the person that executes, that stands up, that raises their hand. You don't have to have the A plus answer with many of these situations. And I'll speak to that on both sides. I've seen startups get funded and move forward that, again, put together the team, they executed, they got traction, they got customers. I've seen nonprofits that didn't wait until a grant came in, started feeding individuals in the 20s and 30s. They got traction and impact numbers. So I would say what really separates is just executing wherever you're at. No excuses, not saying, oh, if I just get some more money or if I buy into this program, but they execute where they're at now.
Execution, yes, but what if they don't articulate well their mission and they execute in the wrong direction?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that speaks to the real need, and shameless plug, that's where we come in to really be able to look at and get feedback on your idea, concept, or program. I'll add to that as a bonus. What holds people back is that many times they operate in a silo and they don't show it off. They don't talk to friends and family. They don't post it on the internet, or they don't bring in a consultant because they feel like, oh, well, he doesn't understand. He's a man. No, no, no. We've been able to come in and objectively give feedback on projects, move projects further. So, to your point, but I will tell you, even execution in the wrong direction is sometimes better than no execution at all. Because at least in the wrong direction, there's corrections being made, and I'm sure you've heard it that many people fail right into success. I have seen individuals, and even if someone's listening now, that concern of, well, I'm not going to execute because I don't want to be going in the wrong direction. Sometimes you got to test. I've had clients where they'll say, I've been working on this workshop or program or system for 2 years. And I'll say, okay, well, what do you need? And they'll say, well, we need funding. Okay, great. I said, well, how many people have actually gone through the program or workshop? No one. So I'm like, let's run a beta. Let's get 10 students. Let's get 10 veterans. Let's get 20 people, get feedback, get testimonials, test it out. Just as of late, I had a team that was working on a manual for life skills for high school students. Again, pretty good funding, but they hadn't launched this one program. I had them do a beta program, and I said, listen, just give them Starbucks gift cards. So they got 10 students in it. They ended up cutting the workbook almost in half after real students went through it. So I say all that to say is that you want to test stuff, get stuff out there as a beta, use what resources you have now, and execute.
Um, I thought something when you were talking about one of our previous guests, Nadine. I want to bring this quote from her because I kind of want to create like a dialogue between the two expertises, because we were just talking about specifically women in entrepreneurship that get there is struggle to even just start their own idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And according to her experience, the way she lived, the Switzerland that she was living when she was growing up, she told me that one of the biggest struggles for a woman to start her own, to start executing, let's say, it's actually her mother-in-law, because she was telling us that once maybe a woman has a husband and then starts working, maybe the mother-in-law doesn't think that she's taking enough care of her son. Right? So
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you have any anecdotes in your experience?
Yeah, a couple of things, because that speaks to not executing because of fear, judgment. And what I tend to do is really start to build an identity. So, even example is that you can be an amazing mother, amazing wife, amazing friend, amazing mother in law, and a business owner. And the thought that you, to your point, have to compromise. And there are times when we have to just act and ignore, right? We have to just literally, again, and I'm not saying you do things that cause strife within a family, but this is where also taking smaller bites, smaller beta steps to get things going, to get momentum. I've had clients that were all of a sudden, because they took those first steps of execution, been able to get a nanny, get a food service, get a driver, to be able to live a more relaxed life as a mom. Because one of the things I always push, with an executive, I'll show them how they save so much time by having their food, like a food service, or having a cook. And people say, oh my gosh, you have to be rich to have that. And then I show them, I'm like, well, you spend X amount of money on food now, you spend this much time preparing it. And so I don't want to go too deep in the weeds with that, but it's the point is that you have to be able to one kind of prove it to yourself first. Because again, when that's the criticism, the external judgment comes in, the fear, and really it is fear. Because I know I've had plenty of clients that said, "Well, I don't do this because," and it may be a significant other, concern with in-laws. Uh, but I will tell you, those that don't do it, they only look back and regret and say, "Hey, I wish I would have done it in the face of fear."
I promise I'm gonna move on to the next step, but I just wanted to ask a question about what you just said,
Sure.
because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they brought up the four burners theory, saying that you can't have them all working at the same time.
hmm
What do you think about that?
Um,
Like
can't
the four burners being like life, health, work, and what was it, like relationships? I think those are like the four.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you like this. I know that there's this concept of like there's no such thing as work-life balance, but I have found that there's a very small percentage of individuals that get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, that organize their day, that are super efficient, that don't have screen time into the 6 and 7 hours because they're doom scrolling, and are really just morning to night, just utilizing their day to the fullest. What I say is, and there's been studies about this in the States, is that even the person that works a 9 to 5 only puts in about 4 hours of real work. I find that with most clients, if they put in 2 hours, 4 hours would be amazing of really focused work. The rest of that part of your life would go unchanged. You could still drop the kids off, you could still cook, clean, but I've had more the conversation of, I'll say to a client, "What time do you wake up in the morning?" "Oh, after the kids," uh, and they're not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. There's a book called The 5 a.m. Club. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Yeah, there's something really powerful that happens during those quiet hours. And if you did, because right now, if anyone's listening to this and you wake up at 7, but you take back 2 hours, that's additional 10 hours a week if you do it during the week, right? And additional 14 if you do that all through the entire 7-day week. And it's capturing those little times back. And again, I'll even from a personal development side, if most of us open up our phone, we find that we waste so much time checking email, scrolling, social media, that if we captured that time back, we could put it towards our goals, dreams, visions of that role. And what's nice is if we do sacrifice that time, it'll afford us more money, which will then afford us to be able to get certain amenities that again free up our time, virtual assistants, interns, again, food service, whatever that may be.
So we discussed a couple of the obstacles that happen in a founder's life, whether it's a nonprofit or a startup. Namely, we discussed the execution. Some may experience some fear. So overcoming these obstacles is one thing, one obstacle at a time. But doing it consistently, I would say it requires a framework, where I think it's where personality pitching come into play. Would you like to introduce your work and your frameworks? And let me ask you: would you prefer to go in a more structured startup on one side, philanthropy on the other, or do you prefer going intertwined?
Yeah, I would say somewhat intertwined. Doesn't have to really separate. But I will start on the nonprofit side. When I work with the organization, the first thing we do out the gate is about messaging, because many times a nonprofit founder is just so close to what it is they serve. Maybe they were a veteran that now serves veteran. Maybe they were housing impacted. Now they serve those that are housing impacted. And when you're so close to it, you speak the language of people that know it, that see it every day. So what I do is I work with you on your mission, vision, your program narratives, and I create what I call your 4 pillars. The reason that this is really important is that because it will then guide every decision you make moving forward. It will help guide who you hire, what programs you launch, and so often because you're at a fledgling stage, and this is, I've had to do this with individual organizations that were a person of a team of one or a team of 100. What happens is you get so spread out because all of a sudden there's a need here, there's a need here, there's a need here. But there isn't that, what I call that foundational document that says this is who we are, this is what we do, this is who we serve. Once we get that in place, we're also simultaneously working on personal development. And you'll see that on both sides. That's how you operate and function as a leader. That's everything from your uh, doubts, fears, insecurities, imposter syndrome. We got to go after all of that. There's several books I always have my clients read. So it's really working on the mindset. So we got messaging and mindset just go hand in hand because we could create all this new messaging, but if you don't believe it, you're like, what? That's me? I do what? But it's bringing the two together at the same time.
Can I ask which books?
Sure. Well, one of them I'll give a sneak peek is The Mountain Is You. I'm a big fan of The Mountain Is You. And then the next one would be The Big Leap. And those really speak to, and I'll talk about how they play a role. The Mountain Is You deals with self-sabotage. Essentially, it's the mountain or obstacle in your life is you. And what happens is that book really walks you through sequentially how to face those mountains and overcome them. I love the way it does it because it does it chapter by chapter. There's no wait at the end for the big climax. And then The Big Leap talks about, and there's a goldfish jumping from a little bowl to a big bowl. And it's about really making that big leap to that next stage. And there's a concept in there called upper limiting, where your body, emotions all of a sudden start to limit because it knows something big is about to happen. So 2 revolutionary books. So that's 2 of them. I'll switch to the for-profit side on the startups. That is about very similar, really identifying the problem, solution, the market that you're serving. Again, I work with genius founders, super technical, but they're so close to it, they speak the language of someone that's close to it. And this is for men, women, it's the same thing. And then also to mindset, really seeing if there are any limiting beliefs. I'll give you a good story on the startup side. I had a founder come to me, came to one of my workshops, and in tears, she said, I've had 11 pitch meetings and 0 wins. Like they didn't ask her any questions. They just, no. And she said, and this was a striking point, it feels like an interrogation. And interrogation, as you know, is a powerful thing. But the thing that interrogation is, it's where you don't feel in control, that someone is just asking you questions. And what I do on the startup side is I show you how to take control of meetings and take control of meetings in the way that you're not there begging, please, can you please give me some money for my startup? And if you just please, no, if you knew you were the next Uber, if you knew you were the next Facebook, your swagger, you would sit up in your chair and you say, okay, I'm giving you guys an opportunity to invest. It'd be totally different. And that type of confidence and swag, I coach on both sides, because the swag on the nonprofit side is I'm giving you an opportunity to give, an opportunity to serve my community. Again, I'm not begging, I'm not taking when you're asking money for a donor. And I've had nonprofit leaders say to me, I don't like asking for money. It feels like I'm begging. I'm like, no, you're giving them an opportunity to serve your community. Because when someone is a donor, they're not going to serve at a soup kitchen. They may not serve the seniors at a center, but their money can. And you're giving them an opportunity to do that. And on the back to the startup side is that, again, if you knew you were the next big thing and it was going to be a huge exit and you were the next Uber, you wouldn't position it like you wouldn't be begging. You would say, hey, I'm giving you the opportunity to invest. And that has been on both sides really transformed the mindset of my clients.
But in practical terms, how can I shift my mindset from, oh, I really hope they say yes, like I really, really hope they say yes, to I'm attractive, I'm ready to receive.
It's really taking inventory of what you have. And again, I deeply examine the nonprofit or startup. So this is not where someone says, you know what, I'm gonna start a nonprofit for ants. And I'm like, you're attractive, you're amazing. No, if it's not a solid idea or if there's some challenges there, I'll bring them up. So what happens is the shift happens, and I'll give you an example. I had someone come to me and say, yeah, I really need help with my nonprofit. Oh, no, it's not my startup. And they said, yeah, I need money for the app. And I said, well, what traction do you have? I don't have any traction. I don't have any customers. I haven't built the app. I said, well, what's the business? They say, oh, well, we have the business runs only in the summer, and we made $100,000 for the last 5 summers. And I was like, well, wait a minute, you have serious traction here. And so what it is, it's a perspective of looking at what they have, seeing the assets, and I call it checking the boxes. So this individual had uh, had received grants before. They received donations. They had raised over $500,000 in revenue year to date. But their perspective was, well, I don't have the app built, so I don't have anything. And the same thing I find the same thing on nonprofit side. They'll say, yeah, we're really trying to get things together. I had this, there's a one in California that comes to mind. We really need help. We're kind of struggling. I said, well, tell me about it. Come to find out, they serve close to 5,000 kids with a backpack drive and uh, Christmas toy drive. The reason they thought they were struggling is because they do everything last minute and didn't have really good organization. But I said, wait a minute. I said, how much did you raise to get these backpacks? Oh, no, they were all donated by corporations. Well, how did you do the toys? Oh, they were donated. And then we also raised 20,000. I was like, wait a minute. So again, because you're so close to it, I help illuminate the success factors. I help illuminate the boxes that they're checking that are attractive to donors and attractive to investors. And again, if they don't have those boxes, I help them put them into place.
I would like to play a quick game because I think it could be interesting. Let's imagine that right now it's kind of true, but like, let's say I am trained in business. I am trained into doing a for-profit pitch.
Mhm.
However, for one reason whatsoever, the universe tells me you now have to do a non-profit pitch. Me,
Okay.
coming from the business world, and maybe if we can also do the reverse scenario, what do I need to change in my mentality to be successful in a non-profit setting?
Okay. Uh, in a nonprofit setting, know that you're going to have to be more proactive for revenue. So, in the business setting, we market, we get customers and clients, they buy our product or service. Now, we're going to be serving a community, but that's not going to be our source of revenue. Our source of revenue now is going to be donors. And I love donors because donors are unrestricted funds that individuals, you could have a donor meeting, you got 3 a week. It's not limited by time or deadlines. The other portion that's a big source of funding for nonprofits is writing grants. So the shift now is we have to now create programs or implement programs to be eligible for funding. On the business side, your service is your service. Maybe you add another service because there's a need for customers. On the nonprofit side, you may have a grant that says, hey, you have to create a whole new program from the ground up. That's an after school program. So that little bit of shift in terms of how revenue comes in, being more proactive. It's not just marketing or getting more customers in the door. It's about those, again, those revenue sources. But I will tell you, when you tap into foundations and donors, you can make just as much money for organization. I have clients that have 20 million plus in assets on the nonprofit side.
And if we were to do the exercise in reverse, and let's imagine that I am right now, I'm a woman that has always worked in nonprofits, and all of a sudden I have a great business idea, and I need to pitch it to a Shark Tank. What should I be careful that it's probably not the same as it would be for a nonprofit?
Yes. So the shift has to be based on what is what is the revenue model. Many times in the nonprofit space, we're advocating, we're educating, but advocacy and education isn't a revenue driver in the for-profit space. So this is now is really identifying, just like we did before, what problem are we solving, what solution are we bringing, and who are we serving, and then really figuring out what the revenue model is. So there's a greater shift on, definitely a greater shift on marketing, customer experience, and bringing in clients.
Coming from personality pitching, before you mentioned that the checkboxes, which hints to me that you that there's something else than just having a good idea and a
Yep.
good framing for your idea, correct? So um, I would say then that the good idea it's not enough, and that success also depends on the right dependencies for this to work. So, what would you say for, let's start, for example, for a startup?
Sure.
What would you say maybe a framework or the pathway to get to a success starting from the good idea is, according to your experience?
Yeah, when someone comes to me to that point and just has a good idea, we quickly need to find out how can we, with the resources we have, and I always stress that because there's always the thought of, oh, I can build a prototype if, no, anybody could build a prototype if they had 100,000 or a quarter million. But how do you build it at the level you're at? So we need to, as quickly as possible, do two things. One, we need to be able to build some type of prototype because ultimately we need to validate the idea, validate it to know that there's customers and clients out there that want it. And believe it or not, we can literally poll, and I've had clients that'll post a landing page and get followers or do a promotional video. We want to go where our potential customers are, find out what their pain point is, and then build it according to that. So, what you can do with no money, if someone says, hey, I have this amazing product and it's going to help college students do X. Well, I immediately want to get onto college campuses and find out what the pain point is, you know, float the potential idea of what I'm bringing to pass without giving it away, see how much they would pay for it, see how valuable solving this pain point or problem would be. So once you got market validation, a potential MVP, a minimum viable product, or some type of beta, we then now want to figure out what you also, and some of these things happen simultaneously, but we also want to be able to build a solid team because so often we try to do it ourselves. And I always love the idea, like with Apple, with Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, where you had someone that was technical and someone that was doing sales. So always try to find other individuals that complement your areas of weakness. Don't try to do it yourself. With nonprofits, for example, in the States, you have to have a certain number of people on your board of directors. And I love that. I wish it was the same thing with entrepreneurs and startups. Like you have to have certain people, but you don't. You can start it by yourself. So the check boxes would be validate that there's a need for it, build some type of prototype, build a team, and again, now we have to build what the messaging looks like around it as kind of a wrapper. I've had individuals again come to me with an idea. We build a deck with all the messaging, and then they were funded that way, even before a prototype was built. So they can be done in different orders. Really depends on kind of where you are in the process.
And the dependencies for the nonprofit, we mentioned quickly, for example, the ability to write a grant or even just the ability to educate. What else?
Yeah, I'll jump on that one. If someone is listening and is saying, "Hey, I'd like to start a nonprofit," one, I definitely love it. Like, go for it. But we do want to get something, and this is where the execution comes in. Because sometimes I'll meet a client, I'll say, "Yeah, I want to do this nonprofit. I just need to buy a building, and I need 100,000 for this, and I need 100,000 for that." And I'm like, "Well, what are you going to do?" "Well, we're going to feed the homeless." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Why can't we feed 10 homeless every Sunday right now? Why can't we pick a block in the neighborhood and we bring sandwiches down and water?" So start somewhere, because even if someone says, "Hey, I feed 10 people every single week and I've done it for the last year," those are impact numbers that donors want to hear and that grantors want to hear. So, and the sooner you can get your nonprofit established, the better, because then when people donate to you, they can get the benefits tax wise, of course. But the first thing I always say is, you know, get something going, execute a program. Uh, Grant writing, I will tell you, is can be a challenge if you don't have impact numbers or a lot of experience. But you can register your nonprofit and say it's done today. You can start to receive donors day one, and donors are gathered by building relationship. Let people know who you are, what you do, who you serve, and that I encourage you do from day one.
On this note, I was looking online, and we also discussed it, I think, before when we first spoke. There are some myths around fundraising, isn't it? Thinking that it's really, really hard to receive funding. I found a study that said that small nonprofits with budgets that are under 1 million, like the ones that we mentioned before, can achieve the same capital campaign success rate as the larger ones, averaging 3.5 million raised versus 8 million. Small nonprofits with budget under the 1 million that we discussed before, for example, achieve the same capital campaign success rate as the larger ones.
To your point, there is a myth that you have to be a large organization to receive donations. Not the case at all. Small, medium, and large organizations, you don't have to have a huge budget to go to a local business, to go to your employer for matching funds, to go to a foundation. So absolutely, there is a thought like, "Oh, I have to be in business as a nonprofit for a number of years before I receive a donor." I've heard that. Not the case. You literally can open up, you can have your nonprofit paperwork launched today, and donors can give to you. It's just a matter of you having that courage. And again, that's why I find too that confidence to just ask. But again, the way we build the confidence is that we're simply talking about the amazing work that either we have done or potentially doing.
So, what would you say it's your secret sauce as personality pitching?
Yeah, the secret sauce is kind of in the name. It's the personality. People don't give to organizations, they give to people. I show you how to build relationship in a short amount of time. There have been studies that say people like you or judge you really in the first 4 to 5 seconds of meeting you, whether that's on Zoom or in person. There's something psychologically that says, who is this person? What do they want? And being able to do everything from read body language to inflection in your voice, it all matters. And that's some of the things that I show work on with my clients. I do role play, and one of the things I do too is whenever we do role play and it comes to giving, whether it's a startup or nonprofit, I always say yes. The reason is because we often play it in our minds. They're going to say no. They're going to say no. They're going to say no. But when I practice 20, 30 times with my clients, you get used to hearing yes, because so much of this is mental. And 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 again, for the women out there, I always say to my clients, your brain lies to you and you can't trust your emotions. Your brain says it won't work. Your brain says they won't give it to you. Your emotions say, you shouldn't be doing this now. We go totally against that. And again, from visualization to live practice. And I pride myself in being able to really work with someone, whether they are scared to the point where they're almost in, fear, to the point where, or maybe they just need a little bit of edge of confidence, is really bringing them up to the level to realize you're amazing, you're an executive, you're leading an organization. And I will tell you, some of my clients they don't have someone else in their corner that's cheering them on. And as a coach and consultant, I'm cheering you on through every meeting, through every engagement. And I'm showing you, almost just holding up a mirror of showing you how great you are and your organization either is or can be.
Can you share maybe a story where your approach had like a big impact, for example, in revenue or donor engagement?
Yeah, and I don't think I finished the story, but the young lady that came to me, and she was 0 and 11, we ended up working together, and in the first 4 weeks, we raised $250,000. In the first 6 months, we raised $20 million.
Ooh.
And I ended up coaching her entire executive team. Again, that same confidence and being able to really show up. But that was a big thing because, as I mentioned, she was 0 and 11. And but it was also, I had to say to her, I was like, "Look, you have created, you have gathered, you have accumulated. This is what you've executed on." Sometimes you need to be reminded of that, because again, if you don't have anyone cheerleading you on or showing you the positive, and unfortunately, if you have negative people in your world, I can't move you and put you in a whole new space or a new family. But what I can do is make sure that when we're working together, that I'm showing you from a standpoint of what the investors are looking at, what the donors are looking at. And many times people have so much more than they realize.
I realized I didn't ask you. How did you end up in this place as yourself?
Yeah, I started raising funds in film and television. I was writing shows and I had to pitch them. And I will tell you, I was not always a calm, cool, collective person. I was getting nauseous, I was nervous, and I know exactly what that is to feel nerves or anxiety going into meetings. And I had to say, I was like, I have all these meetings, I have to figure this out. And so I started practicing, read different books, but I was just like, a lot of the books were just towards, well, just speak with confidence and memorize. And I'm like, no, it's got to be something different. And I realized so much of it was just that internal personal development confidence. And I really started to work on me and how I saw myself. And it made a great impact. And then other producers started to see the way I was presenting, and they were like, hey, can you help me present? And I brought that over into startups. And again, it's just ironic how it happened. Just I started working with one or two women founders, and they were like, "Hey, you got to talk to this Michael. He's absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh!" And you know, I have gotten the feedback is that I haven't had a man empower me the way you do as a coach. I've gotten that feedback. And I will tell you, there's two things. One, it's a part of kind of who I am and what I do, but I also help them shift to say, whether they do or not, you are still amazing in that room. You still belong there. I've had executives with major corporations. I'm talking 15 years experience, still have a funny feeling about sitting around a room of men directors. And I had to remind them, you are there because they believe in you. You're not an intern. You weren't a lottery pick. And I just show them their track record. And I'm sure you've heard the term the brag bank. Help them really build that brag bank of accolades, awards, things that they've done, and help them to the point where maybe you need to look at that brag list or brag bank every time before you go into a meeting, maybe before you present. So, but yeah, I hope that answers the question. And like I said, I've seen it go such a long way in bringing that confidence.
But yes, thank you. Sorry, I jumped because you were saying that you had, as an investor, so you had this outlook perspective. So I realized that I didn't ask you where you were coming from. But in your approach, you said you work with different backgrounds, etc. I wanted to ask you, um, do you catch yourself maybe switching? I don't want to say a mask because it sounds too dramatic, but do you switch approach when you're talking about nonprofit rather than startups? Is there like something within yourself that changes depending on the context that you're?
I think the only thing that switches is that the when I'm talking to a nonprofit, again, their perspective is usually, we just want to help. I'm like, I got that, but we're building an organization here. So sometimes I have to kind of take that additional step to say, yes, we're going to help. We're going to transform the community, but we have to, this is the business aspect of it. And it's so interesting. I saw someone just this weekend who didn't want to go after donors for the longest time. Oh, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable. And it took a while to convince them. But what convinced them more than anything was there was a month where there was no revenue, no money coming in. And he walked, like walked the plank, and he got a $20,000. I literally found out last night, a $20,000 donor by one phone call. One phone call. So the approach has to be, a lot of times I have to really push, because you can be successful, or put it this way, you can execute in a nonprofit with that good heart, good feeling, oh, we're doing it just to bring transformation, and not focusing on the business, but it's not sustainable. So that's the difference on the nonprofit side. On the for-profit side, the focus there is really, again, swag. Them realizing that it's like, look, if you're looking for 500,000, it should be so amazing that you would invest in it. Would you invest in your own startup? So that's why I really pose it. So they really start to bring up, because every venture capital individual or investor, they're looking for that unique swag, that boldness that says, like, oh my gosh. I'm not saying arrogance, not saying narcissistic or mean. No, someone that can just say, hey, hello, everyone. My name is Michael Clark. I have the absolute revolutionary solution for hotels. They can just bring it, and someone says, oh my gosh, what is it? I'm captivated.
So I would say the question that I really like to ask towards the end of our conversation is, um, what's one question that you wish you were asked more often in your day-to-day life?
Um, what it would be, what do I need to do to attract money? And that's what that would cover both sides. Because the question I always get is, can you help me find donors? Can you help me find investors? And I'm like, there are plenty of donors and plenty of investors, but you have to be an attractive nonprofit, an attractive startup. That's where those boxes come in. That's where the confidence comes in. That's where the swag comes in. So if they would just ask that question, like, what do we need to do? Or if the word attractive doesn't resonate, like, what do I need to do to be almost eligible for funding? What do I need to do to be in position to get an angel investor or VC? And again, it's because so many times people get the opportunity, but they're not ready. They have these missing pieces, and they wonder why they get no's. They wonder why the investor's not engaged, and they'll say, hey, you're missing traction. You don't have a team in place. Um, you have good traction, but you're missing this in your revenue model. So they need all these elements before they can cross over.
Before I ask my last question of the
Sure.
day, do you think we're missing something? Did I forget about something that you would like to ask to talk about?
Um, just that if you are a entrepreneur or executive, and you've been Oh, well, I'll do a three kind of calls to action. If you've been considering launching a nonprofit and you thought that, oh my gosh, I need a whole bunch of money to do it, it's not the case. Um, unless you're saying you want to start a foundation that gives out money, I would always say if you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, start small, start a program, start executing, go for it. If you are say if you executive or work a 9 to 5 and you've been considering launching a startup, again, I have to say go for it also, because that problem that's on your heart is probably something that someone is looking for a solution for. So take the steps, to um, put the definitely put the idea on paper, start doing a little bit of market research, go to where your clients are or potential customers are and start talking to them. And that's that little step of execution that stops you from, because I meet people all the time. I'll say, hey, how long have you been thinking about this idea? How long have you been looking to launch this nonprofit? And they'll say 5 years, 10 years or more. I would say execute, take some small steps to bring it to pass.
There's this quote that I really like is you just need to make it exist first. You can make it good later.
That's good. I like that. I like that. Done is better than perfect. Exactly.
But my last question, and I think it's kind of the elephant in the room that we kind of addressed already, but I want to be a little bit the devil's advocate, as I usually like to be. Since you're the first man of No Wonder, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you.
um, if somebody would be doubting right now the relevance of your perspective because it's coming from a man, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. If you've gotten to this far in the podcast, my hope is that something resonated, that you know about the fear that I talked about in the boardroom, that the apprehension you have to ask for money, that something I said resonates with something you're actually dealing with. Now, if you get to this point and you're like, you know what, there's nothing that guy mentioned, I'm just going to tell you, I'd be shocked, only because the things that I mentioned today, 90 to 95% of my clients that are both starting out and are highly successful deal with on a daily basis. Those are the villains and dragons that have to be slayed by women executives all across the world, no matter what culture, city, or state. So if you're doubting it, I would say just listen to it again. Make sure you didn't skip any parts. But again, you having defeating um, imposter syndrome, doubt, fear, apprehension, knowing that validation is, don't look for validation. I call it the inner circle. Your friends and family see you as you. It's the people outside of that circle that you'll meet at a conference, that you'll meet online, that you'll meet networking, that'll truly validate who you are. Because I get that a lot too. How do you deal with, my friends and family don't support my dreams? Yeah, because they see you as you. They remember what it was, you at a cookout. They remember you when you were little, you when you were learning how to ride a bike, you, the argument you had 5 years ago. That's what they remember. So do not look for validation for those from those that are closest to you. Branch it out. Share the idea with others. And so, like I said, if none of that resonates, but I've been doing this long enough to know that this resonates with individual
It's
women.
beautiful. With this beautiful image, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. If people want to know more about you, see more about you, where can they find you?
Yes, go to personalitypitching.com and they'll see a green button to book a discovery call. And if you put in there that No Wonder in the notes, No Wonder podcast, there'll be some special things that I'll do for my executives and executives and nonprofits, including some pitch materials and some cool templates and stuff like that. So, yes, please put in there that you found me through the No Wonder. And I will tell you like this. One thing I do is that you'll click that and we do a strategy session. It's not a sales call. Let me tell you right now. I, I I'm not going to try to sell you, but what I will do is I'll definitely be able to give you some amazing feedback. And if there's an opportunity to work together, wonderful. If not, no harm, no foul. You'll take the resources and be amazing. But I love what you're doing on this podcast, and again, that's why I reached out to you, and I appreciate what you do. I know people listen and lock in on a weekly basis, and they get some amazing information. So I just hope to be in that catalog of uh, of information, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, so two things. Thank you so much for the nice words. To everybody that's listening to us, go check out the resources if you ever want to start your own little activity or side hustle or full-time hustle. And with that, I want to thank you once more again. And I'm gonna stop the recording because otherwise it gets awkward.
All right. Thank you.